Hey Connor, this is Keaton Everett with ABC going over your pitching video. We're going to go through and talk a little bit about mechanics and sort of look at a couple key spots. We're basically going to key off of the biggest overall picture is what's our lower half doing, what's our hips doing, how are our hips taking us down the mound, what are our hips doing at foot strike, are we getting separation, are we getting torque. The biggest thing is just using those hips, using those legs to throw. We're going to go and look at, how you start. Where are you breaking your hands? Are you in a nice, consistent position? So much of how we finish dictates, or so much of how we start dictates how we finish. And so we're going to look at that, and then we're going to look at your foot strike. So once that left leg starts, once that first frame it touches the ground, we're going to look at that, and that picture tells a whole lot of how we're throwing. It's going to tell us a lot of what our lower half's working. It's going to tell us if we're in a powerful position. It's going to show if we're in a pretty healthy position, because we want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves at risk for injury or anything. And then from foot strike, we're going to look at, how are you delivering the ball? Where are we sort of getting out? Are we getting out over our front foot? Are we driving through that backside? So those are just a couple key spots that we'll look at, all right? So right off the bat, we're going to look at how we're setting up. All right, we want to make sure that we're over our back leg, our head's not moving back. You think of a sprinter. Sprinters don't get in the starting blocks and rock back and rock forward, so we want to make sure we're over our backside. So as you can see through your motion, I think the camera kind of moves a little bit, but you're doing a good job of staying on that back foot. All right, just make sure that your setup, you don't want to just come set and just be lax in this lower body. All right, we just don't want lax. We want to make sure that we're loading up this hip, we're loading up that inside part of that knee to get going. All right, we're not just kind of sitting there and then waiting for our leg to come up to get in that position. We want everything to be locked and loaded, ready to get going forward. All right. And to just get a little bit wider with your feet. We want to just kind of be right around a little bit underneath shoulder width, but it's just a little bit more of an athletic position, a little more balanced. All right, hands down here too, because as you watch where you break your hands, all right, you can see that your hands go down to that position anyways. So get them there to eliminate that excess movement. All right, we want to be as efficient as we can. All right. So initially, this start is real good, okay? You're bringing that leg up, all right? So at this position, hands down here, what we want to see at this spot is hips leading. We want to see this knee start to go down. We want to see your hands break, all right? So you can see your hips start to lead, your leg starts to go down, but your hands are breaking late, all right? And what's going to help that is once these hands are down, they're going to break with that leg. It's almost like you're kind of breaking your hands, pushing that leg down to start everything. But at this point, this is really good, all right? And this is the biggest part of power and everything. So you're leading with that hip, you're driving down, all right? Just one thing that you need to kind of work on is watching what your foot's doing, is that it just kind of straightens up right here and just kind of swings open like a door hinge, all right? Now, you're able to maintain a little bit, and it's not leaking too much, but you want to try to get in a spot where, you're not straightening that leg out. You want to kind of, it'll straighten out a little bit, maybe about right here, and then it'll just kind of fall behind your hip. But at this point, we still want to see that foot kind of closed off a little bit, a little bit of bend in your knee, and then maybe right about here, now that foot starts to kick open. So your foot's just kicking open a little bit earlier, and it's causing a little bit of leaking, but it's nothing too bad. All right. Through foot strike, we're still keying in on that lower body. So once that front foot hits the ground, you can see that you're a heel lander. All right, and that's a function of just causing that foot to rotate open too early. All right, but I mean it's still fine, guys. Guys still land on that heel. But you have a really good sense of torque here. You're seeing this back foot starting to flip open. Your front shoulders haven't turned. All right, it could almost be there. It's kind of tough to tell where exactly that heel first hits. But anyways, you're getting some torque. All right. what you need to work on is keeping your weight farther back over this back hip. We still want to see your ear over that back hip a little bit longer. You're still getting out a little bit out in front. All right, and that's just causing a little bit of leaking. All right, but you're doing good at creating torque. All right, at foot strike, you know your gloves out over that front foot. You have a good angle right here. All right, so everything's looking pretty solid. Now it's just a matter of staying back a little bit longer through those legs. And you can see that you finished really well out over that front foot. Back foot still on the ground. All right, you can still see that glove heads over the foot. So everything's solid with that lower body. All right, you have a really good sense. Now it's just a matter of almost thinking like you're trying to kick with that heel. Just keep that leg bent just a little bit more. I'm not saying it just got to be bent too much, but just kind of keep that from flopping open and land on your heel. You want to try to land a little bit more balls of your foot, somewhere around there. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty solid. All right, so now upper body wise, because your hands are breaking late, you're going to have to, your arm kind of instinctively has to play catch up and kind of overdoes it. So you can see yourself getting up with that elbow above that shoulder, all right? And that is right here. And you can see it kind of lags there for a couple frames. So it comes up here, just kind of lags. And that angle right there isn't very good for your shoulder, all right? Especially as you get older and get a little bit stronger. We want to see that elbow. We don't ever want to see that elbow get above that shoulder, all right? So and that's just because it's breaking late, so you kind of have to play catch up, and your arm just gets going a little bit too quickly up, and it's not able to get those hands on top of the ball, and you can get a little bit of angle here. All right, but you do kind of make up for it, and it comes back down here, but it's just something to pay attention to as you get a little bit older, that we don't want that elbow really getting up above that shoulder too much. All right, it just strains that capsule and creates angles that just aren't very good for it. But other than that, I mean, through release, it's really good. You got that torque going. Now it's just a matter of keeping this weight back a little bit longer. But your finish is awesome, and you have a really good foundation for those legs. So once that leg strength starts coming, that you're going to see a big jump in velocity. So just the biggest thing is just working on coming set, feet a little bit wider apart, more athletic, really lock in that weight on that inside part of that knee, and then hands down here so they can break with that leg, all right, instead of late. So you can just see, but I mean, other than that, it's pretty solid. All right, and one little thing with that arm coming up high is you see that it's up high, and you see it kind of drop low. We want to try to make sure that once that elbow gets to its height, we don't want to see that elbow get so high that it drops down and then gets back up. So you can kind of see it, if we kind of draw that elbow path, we'll go back here, draw it here. You can just kind of watch this path here. You can kind of see how it kind of goes, follows this path here, kind of goes down and then through the zone. We want to try to get it more efficient, where it's doing a little bit more on a straight path down instead of that kind of down and then up. And all that is just making sure that elbow's not as high in the back. It just gets up to shoulder height, gets up to your hands, get up on top of the ball, and then that elbow comes through and drives straight down. We want to get to a point where we're here with it, and then that elbow pass, you're just going to see it real straight. All right, we don't want to see it drop and then go back up. All right, but other than that, man, it's all pretty solid. Everything's there, and I'm hoping you're having an awesome season this year. And thanks for coming out to camp. We look forward to seeing you with ABC.